Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Dudley Planning Board. Meeting for Wednesday, April 26th. Present this evening, we have Daniel Edmiston, Vice Chairman, Thomas Chinaki, Clerk. Mr. Richard Clark is not present this evening. David Durgan, Member, and Phil Scanlon, our Acting Town Planner. First item on our agenda, Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, second item on our agenda for this evening, 7 p.m. We're slightly over that, apologize. Public hearing on proposed zoning amendments. We have the public hearing notice. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 5, the Dudley Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 26, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the Dudley Municipal Complex, Room 321A, 71 West Main Street, Dudley, Mass., on 6 proposed zoning amendments. Number 1, to amend the Dudley zoning bylaw, Section 5.04.02, subsections A and B. Projects requiring minor and major site plan review. Subsection 3, in each by deleting the words additional and adding a new phrase after the words normal maintenance to illustrate the types of activities that are considered normal maintenance. Number 2, to amend the Dudley zoning bylaw by deleting section 3.02 floodplain district in its entirety and inserting a new section 3.02 floodplain district in order to meet state and federal requirements for participation in the National Flood Insurance Program. Number 3, to amend the Dudley zoning bylaw by adding a new section 3.16 battery energy storage systems to regulate such uses, and amend section 2.03.02 use by district chart by adding a new line for battery energy storage system, and to amend section 3.07 town refuse disposal district to specify where such uses will be allowed. Number 4, to amend the Dudley zoning bylaw, section 4.01 parking standards by adding a new section 4.01.09 electric vehicle charging stations to establish a requirement for electrical vehicle charging stations in parking lots of 20 or more spaces. To amend the Dudley zoning, number 5, to amend the Dudley zoning bylaw, section 7.01 driveway/curb cut permits, subsection 4.f, by adding design standards to the construction of shared driveways. And number 6, by landowner petition to amend the official Dudley zoning map by changing the zoning district from residential 30 to light industrial 87 for the property shown on lot 153B on the plan entitled A&R Plan of Land for 153 Oxford Avenue, prepared by DC Engineering and Survey, Inc., dated November 11th, 2022, containing 11.45 acres. The proposed amendments are on the town website and in the offices of the Planning Board and Town Clerk, 71 West Main Street, Dudley, Mass. During the hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday through Thursday, and 8 a.m. to noon on Fridays. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the zoning amendment should appear at the time and place designated. Guy Horn, Chairman, Dudley Planning Board. This was run in the April 12th and April 19th edition of the Webster Times.
They were run in the Worcester Telegram on those dates,
Okay.
and in the Webster Time last Friday.
Okay. So we had adequate advertisement.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Okay. So the first one that we were talking about was the site plan requiring minor and major site plan review, subsection 3. Do we have that change outlined in here?
Should be in your packet, application. page is past the public hearing notice. So I have it up on the TV for people that might be watching at home.
My packet is starting off with battery energy storage systems. So I don't know if I'm missing that one.
I don't think they're on order.
Yeah, they're not in order. If you go past the batteries, then you go past the floodplain
Okay.
section. And then you'll come to
Oh, yep, okay.
site plan review amendment. There are three.
Yep, I see it, I see it now.
So the public hearing is open right now, correct?
Yes.
All right, so at the conclusion of the public hearing, when we start to do voting, are we voting on all 6 of these together? Do we have to vote on them separately? Or are we just
Have to
recommend?
vote on them separately.
Right.
Yep.
And we're basically recommending these for the town meeting, correct?
All right, so.
So
yep.
you have a 4-member body here, so you need at least 3 members to make a recommendation, either positive or negative. A 2-2 tie is not a recommendation.
Okay.
Understood?
All right, so this, this change on the site plan, major or minor site plan review came about with the renovation of the parking lot at Park and Shop.
Yes.
So this would basically force people that are doing as much maintenance as they did in that parking lot, where they actually removed asphalt and repaved sections, that they would have to come back in for a major or minor site plan review versus just do the work.
So the intent here is we're removing the word additional so that renovation of a parking lot of 5 but fewer than 10 spaces would require a minor site plan review. And more than 10 spaces would require a major site plan review.
Right.
But we have this clause in here which exempts certain activities from the site plan review requirement. If it's patching pavement, striping lines, repairing, cleaning drainage systems, pruning, replacing vegetation, traffic control measures, and other general upkeep would not require site plan review by the planning board.
So I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. Does anybody have any questions on the first one?
No questions here,
No.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay.
Audibles.
Second one we were talking about is the floodplain district. And I think that was something that came to us from the state, was it? Or the state and the federal government?
Yes, the FEMA is revising the floodplain maps, and in June, they will have publishing in the Federal Register, which will make the preliminary maps final maps. And accompanying that remapping is a requirement that the town amend its floodplain overlay district bylaw. Now, FEMA and the state have a model floodplain bylaw, and it's required that the town adopt the provisions of the model bylaw in the zoning bylaw. So we had to amend the existing floodplain district in accordance with the new model bylaw,
Mhm.
which is what this amendment proposes, is to bring the town into conformance with the federal requirements for regulation of development in a floodplain. So we don't have much flexibility here. We have to sort of adopt the state and federal requirements, which this does. It's been reviewed by town council and by the state floodplain regulator. So adopting this will keep the town in the National Flood Insurance Program.
Right.
So it's important that the town take the step to remain current with the regulations and requirements.
Okay. Any questions from the board on this article?
No, none.
Our third article is the battery energy storage system. And that's, I saw that in here. Actually, the one that we started off with. So could you give us a synopsis of that one, Bill?
The intent of this bylaw is to allow battery energy storage systems, or BESS, in industrial districts, which really are the industrial 43 and 130 and the light industrial districts of LI 43 and 87, as a site plan review measure. These systems have become very important lately because of the need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So they are part of the whole electrification system which is going on in the country. You might find them adjacent to a solar system where the solar system provides energy and stores that energy in the battery system, which can then be released during periods of peak demand. You might also find them adjacent to an industry which also wants to capture energy at times when it's cheaper and then use it when it's more expensive. These systems are usually contained in containers like cargo containers. They're placed on a pad on a site. They are typically in the range of 8 to 10 megawatts, but they can also be much bigger. They can get up to 100 megawatts or more if the grid is able to accommodate that size. And of course, they would then be much bigger, and would require more land if that is the intent of the developer. So this would require a site plan review by the planning board. There are standards proposed in the bylaw which require setbacks from adjacent residential uses, noise standards, land clearing standards, lighting, signage, buffering from land use, adjoining land uses.
Is there a fence requirement?
Excuse me?
Is there a fencing requirement?
Yes, they're usually fenced, for protection purposes. The advantage to the community is that it will allow use of some industrial land, which currently there's very low demand for industrial land in Dudley. So this would be one potential use of that land, which would then allow for tax revenue to the community. They typically don't, they don't generate traffic because there's no employment.
Mhm.
They're standalone. They don't have, negative impacts. They're not polluting. They're clean industry. So, they seem like in industrial areas they're an appropriate land use, particularly for land which doesn't have access to water and sewer systems. There's not a lot of uses that you can put that kind of industrial land to. So this gives landowners an opportunity to do something productive with their property.
So the questions I would have, Bill, is this amendment, or this article that we're gonna sponsor, as far as the zoning goes, does the zoning or the use table, does it align with what we currently allow for solar? Is it the same as the solar uses?
Solar are also allowed in industrial districts and in the town refuge disposal district, so I believe
They're
there
aligned,
would be symmetry there as well.
okay. And then
You
my-
did already permit one as part of the solar project at the landfill.
Okay.
It was sort of an accessory to the solar array.
My other question would be, if somebody wanted to do this on an individual basis, and let's say it wasn't at a solar field or a solar farm, would they also enter into an agreement with the town, as the solar fields do, for some kind of yearly
Pilot program?
pilot program? Yeah.
No, we're not proposing any kind of a tax agreement accompanying this use.
Okay.
So it would just be regular property taxes or personal property taxes, however they're assessed and taxed. So it'd be taxed on the value rather than some pre-programmed agreement with the
But
town.
if this unit was put in with accompanying a solar farm, then it would have a pilot program?
Yes, it would then have tax agreement, which would specify dollar value per megawatt.
Okay, so by itself, it's not part of a pilot program, but in conjunction with a solar field, it would
Yes.
be, okay. Any other questions from the board?
There's nothing here mentioning that it's on the landfill, though, in the
Yes.
district chart.
Excuse me?
Right
In the
below it.
district chart, it says industrial, light industrial, but nothing about the.
Right below that. Refuse disposal.
Right.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see it now. Is that not in the
That's how
chart?
it's owned, the town refuse disposal.
Yeah, all right, so that's not in the, actual chart? That 2.1?
No, there isn't
Or is it
a
just
line
not
for
okay.
TRD in the zoning bylaw. It's only like a paragraph in the bylaw as to what uses are permitted there.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, my concern here would be the removal of these units whenever they're no longer needed or whenever something happens. I know, I just wanted to note here for the record that in section 31606, paragraph B, financial surety, this is calling for the, anybody who's trying to put one of these in to basically put into an escrow account enough money to cover for the removal of the unit. And there's also a clause in here that says that the planning board, as a governing body, has the ability to put in clauses for inflation to make sure that they have enough money over the years. So I think this is a good paragraph, and it just protects us long-term.
yeah, so this would be the same and similar that we would have currently for the solar.
It's
Yeah,
very
so-
similar.
yeah. Any other questions from the board on this one?
Are you comfortable with the site plan review process for these?
I think I would be,
Okay.
Agreed.
yeah, I mean, it's a hoop they have to jump through. You know, it's not like they just come in and get a permit and put it up.
And it is an industrial area, so if it was a
Right.
residential, I think, residential district, it would be different.
Right,
But it's intended for industry, which is what these essentially are, so.
okay. The next one would be number 4. This was the parking standards. So this is for the car charging stations. This is one that we recommended earlier because of the, was it a state law bill that came about? Or were we trying to be preemptive of the state law?
The state is moving in that direction. I don't think there's a requirement yet that
Okay.
communities provide them, but in the new stretch energy code, there's strong incentives to put these into new parking lots.
So is this the identical one that we proposed last
Yes.
time? So 20, for every new parking lot constructed with more than 20 parking spaces, they would have to include one charging station.
Right.
And if they built a parking lot with 40 to 60 spaces, they would have to include 2. And so on, 60 to 80, every 20 spaces.
Did I understand that correctly, that we tried to get this passed once already?
We tried it once. It was, I think we had the majority, but it wasn't, you have to have a 2/3 majority for zoning. I think we had more than 50%, but we didn't have the 2/3. Any other questions from the board?
Do we have an understanding of what these things cost? What would it cost some kind of a property owner to put one of these in?
A lot.
I don't know. I looked into it for my company, just put in 10. They told me it was $900 a unit.
I don't even think that covers the underground conduit or the sand or the wire going to it.
You don't have to put them you don't have to put underground conduit. You can put them on the building.
Yeah, but you're putting them on a commercial building, what, phase 3 power? Big difference.
I mean, like if somebody's building a new project in town that had more than 20 parking places, they
I
would
know,
have-
just electrician costs $3,000 just to wire the damn thing.
No, to your point, where's the power coming from? Where is it going to? Parking lots are usually further away from buildings, so you're gonna
Yeah.
have to have some distance there from a transformer or from some kind of a, electrical generating station. Then you're gonna have underground, you're gonna have the unit itself. I don't know what kind of safeties are on these things. It just,
Have National Grid hookup if you're hooking up to the transformer.
I don't know what kind of power they suck. I don't know anything about them.
Me neither.
You can charge it on 110 or you can charge it on 220. I mean, some of the ones they put in residential houses are just charging it with 110. It takes you a lot longer to charge a car battery on 110, but 220 It's not that difficult.
Let's say you have an apartment building. How many people live in an apartment building with an electric
How many
car?
apartment buildings have a 20-spot parking lot and they're building it from scratch?
I do.
Well, they haven't built it yet.
They haven't built it yet.
So they're typically located next to buildings, they're, convenient
Right.
for the customer. So the wiring is really just bringing it into the parking lot. You typically have lighting in a parking lot anyway, so it's probably an additional cost, but it shouldn't be that great. You're not doing a lot of additional work to wire these facilities.
I mean, they just remodeled the old J.C. Penney's at Sturbridge, and there's at least 15, if not 20 of these units in the parking lot there. So it can't be that cost prohibitive, because all that moved into that space was Planet Fitness gym and an auto parts store. So my guess is if it was really cost prohibitive, they wouldn't have put 15 to 20 charges in.
Some corporations started putting them in for them,
I
and
think-
making the profit.
A lot of the charges that I saw
No,
in
but-
Sturbridge are Tesla charges. Tesla may put one in for you for free if you offer them the space.
I don't know how it works yet.
They're looking for
But
places
I
to
don't wanna
put their.
enforce something on somebody that has really no need for it.
Well, what is it, 2035, you're not gonna be able to buy a gas-powered car in Massachusetts anymore.
Well,
Yeah, I doubt that.
the issue is, as more people buy electric vehicles, there's gonna be a greater demand for these charging stations, and if people can't find a convenient place to charge their vehicle, then they're gonna be reluctant to buy an electric vehicle, and it's very inconvenient for them if they have to drive around, or they're going on a long trip, for example, and they, need to be very careful about where they can travel to make sure they have
I think-
access to one of these.
I think currently in Dudley, the only place you can charge an electric car publicly is at the library. And I'm sure you have to pay to charge it at the library, it's not free.
So there are state and national goals to increase the number of electric vehicles, and
Sure. Should've asked Mr.
pretty
Clark
soon you
what it
won't be able
costs
to
him
buy
for
a
that.
gas-powered vehicle anyway, so you'll need to have charging stations for all the new electric vehicles that will be on the road. So this is one way the town can contribute to advancing that economic goal.
I mean, I don't think we're asking for a huge amount of charges to be installed.
I'm just confused about the whole thing. Not that it's relevant in any way, shape, or form, but I just doubt whenever Henry Ford made the first car that, Sacramento or any other city was obligated to put in gas stations for the auto users. And eventually, at some point in time, if electric cars are going to be as widespread as the government thinks they are, isn't it the duty of the electrical car maker industry to come up with a way to do this, or for the private sector?
Yeah, like Shell Mobile.
They're not gonna go out quietly, and, I mean, I just, I don't know if I would, again, not knowing the cost, I don't know if I would go out and buy an electrical car if that electrical car manufacturer wasn't gonna put a charger in my garage for nothing. What's the point otherwise? So, just my 2 cents.
Any other comments on the car charging stations? Okay. Next one was number 5, the driveway and the curb cut permits. And this was, let's see if I can find that one.
That again is after the floodplain bylaw in your binder.
It's after the floodplain.
I think it was just after the next page.
It's right after the EV charging stations.
3, 4, 5, 6. I'm still not seeing it.
It's on the back of that article we just talked about, vehicle charging stations. It's on the next page.
Oh, there it is, okay. All right, so this was basically to add some specificity to what's currently allowed is, in the town of Dudley, you can have a common driveway. So a single driveway shared between 2 houses and provide access to 2 houses is permissible currently in the zoning bylaw. So what this was to do was to add, is it just this, actually it's 9 different specific standards. The distance of a shared driveway measured from the street line to the point where the shared driveway splits into two individual driveways shall not exceed a distance of 500 feet unless the highway superintendent or Board of Appeals, as the case may be, after referral to the fire department for comment, makes the determination that said driveway will provide safe access for fire, police, and emergency vehicles. Number two, the shared driveway lie entirely within the boundaries of the lots to which provided access shall be separated from any other lots to which access is not being provided by an appropriately landscaped buffer at least 20 feet in width. So we're saying, like, basically the taking is 20 feet there, Bill? Is that what that one's saying, number two?
For number two,
Yeah,
so it has to be, you know, if you have two lots, the driveway has to be within those two lots.
yeah.
And then, it must be, a landscape buffer at least 20 feet in width.
The shared driveway, number three was, the shared driveway shall have a minimum cleared width of 20 feet and a minimum travel way of 16 feet. So it's basically saying the travel way would be the paved area, and
I ran that by the fire chief, and he was okay with that language.
roadway surface shall have a minimum of 4 inches of graded gravel placed over properly prepared, graded and compacted to drain from the crown. The driveways shall be paved for the first 50 feet in order to prevent erosion into the street. So that's our 50-foot. Oh, no, I think the current driveway, standard only requires you to pave the first 15 feet, if I remember right.
I thought it was 10 feet.
I think it's 15.
15.
Okay.
So this
I can
is,
look it up if you want.
this is a little bit more, but, I mean, it is a common driveway, so, yeah. The grade of each shared driveway where it intersects with the public way shall not exceed 6% for the distance of 50 feet, whether up gradient or down gradient from the street, and that's in our current driveway bylaw also. The shared driveway shall not disrupt existing drainage patterns or cause material to enter the travelway of a public street. The applicant shall submit a grading plan showing existing and proposed conditions to demonstrate compliance with this requirement. Number 7, the applicant shall submit proposed documents to the highway superintendent or Board of Appeals, as the case may be, demonstrating that through easements, restrictive covenants, or other appropriate legal devices, the maintenance, including snow removal, repair, and liability for a shared driveway and all public utilities shall remain perpetually the responsibility of the private parties and their successors in interest. So that's basically just saying that it's gonna stay a private driveway.
And there's an agreement in place
Yeah.
to provide for long-term maintenance.
Okay. Number 8, the shared driveway shall never be used to satisfy frontage requirements. Number 9, an application for a shared driveway shall include a plan showing the driveway serving the premises, stopping site distances in each direction with the adjoining roadway, and existing and proposed topography at 2-foot contour intervals. This information shall be shown on a site plan, an approval not required plan, or any other plan of the lots to which access is being provided by the shared driveway. So this is something that we already require in our A&R plans today, is the proposed access in the driveway cross-section. So it's basically adding those 9 conditions or specifications to the current bylaw that just says they're permissible.
So for driveway serving 2 lots, the highway superintendent has jurisdiction. So he would manage the provisions of this bylaw. If it's more than 2 lots, the zoning board of appeals has a special permit requirement, so they would review the plan and make sure these standards are met.
Okay. Any other questions on the driveway?
Are these standards for the two that the highway would approve? You know, if it was just two houses, would they all have to follow these two?
Yes. If it's a shared driveway for 2 or more lots, they would have to conform to this.
Now, this was voted down last time, right?
It was.
I don't think we did a good job explaining it. We can explain it again. I forgot what was going on that night, but there was some sporting event.
Patriots.
It wasn't the Patriots?
Yeah.
Okay,
Zappy.
yeah. Okay, so any other questions on the common driveway bylaw change?
No questions?
Okay, last one we got is number 6, a landowner petition.
I'm not sure if you have that one in your binder.
I didn't see anything about it.
So this is I have it up on screen here if you'd like to look there. So this was submitted by Jonathan Andrew Levitch as Vice President of the 3 Rs Realty Corporation. Under the zoning act, landowners can petition to have their property rezoned.
Mhm.
So that's how this came in. And the petition is to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning map by changing the zoning district from residential 30, res 30, to light industrial 87 for the property shown as lot 153B on the plan entitled A&R Plan of Land for 153 Oxford Avenue, dated November 11th, 2022, consisting of 11.4522 acres and assessors map 21206-001. Said plan is attached. So this is the A&R plan that you recently approved, I'd say 3 or 4 meetings ago. So this is this is Oxford Avenue here. These are now, this used to be all one lot. And now it was divided into 2 lots. So the existing house is now separate from the backland. The house lot will remain res 30, which has been zoned for quite some time. And the backland, which now doesn't have any frontage, will be zoned, is proposed for light industrial 87. And this is the 11.4522 acres that is requested to be rezoned. And that will be used with the surrounding property, which is also light industrial 87.
So that was gonna be my question. The surrounding property is all
Yes.
industrial zoned.
All of the surrounding properties?
Yeah, I was about to ask that.
Because the properties to the plan north are, but the properties to the plan south and plan west aren't, are they? There are houses there.
The
Yeah,
adjoining
there's residential right there.
properties of the landowner. So, this is the lot in question, I believe.
No, it's right behind the cemetery.
Right, here's the cemetery here.
Yep, so I think it's the one that we only see the tip of the triangle there.
So, this res 30, so these parcel coverage doesn't have the new line division in it yet, so that
Right.
line comes somewhere down here. So this portion, which is res 30, is being proposed for LI 87, which is the adjacent land of the landowner. The other portion of Oxford Avenue will remain, res 30. And there is a solar farm up here,
Mhm.
which is under construction. I believe it's almost done. So the intent is to provide a contiguous area of LI 87, including this area.
So I understand that what they're asking for, but because it's a single piece of land, is it gonna be considered spot zoning?
Well, it's the landowner's right to petition to have his property rezoned.
Right, but
The
if we,
butters have no saying in this?
if we approve it, is there any way that the Attorney General could say no?
Well, we're not being asked to approve it, are we, Bill? We're being asked to recommend it for the
Right.
town meeting.
Right.
The town has to approve it.
Yeah, this, I don't know if the spot zoning question applies here, because you could petition to have your property rezoned. I don't think you would be called spot zoning in that case either. So it's up to the board to decide whether that,
I mean, it
this
would,
property is better suited for residential.
So in the property just to the south of that, that's in the light industrial 87, aren't there houses in that area?
I'm showing, these are buildings, so I'm not showing any, these are probably just, you know,
all buildings.
Oh, yeah, there's a-
associated with the,
There's a big gravel pit, so.
yes.
So it doesn't
Now
look like
we
there's
got-
any houses
We got
there.
one house there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Can you scroll and bring everything up, please?
Sure.
Right, so, can you scroll and bring that up a little bit so I can see what's down on the bottom?
Yep. So here's the cemetery here.
Right, so my understanding, let's see. I looked at this today on Google Earth or Maps or something. And the property in question is this one right here, right?
It's further up.
No, it's,
I don't think so. I think it's that one right there.
no, that's the toxic waste dump. It's on the other side of the line.
Then Google told me the wrong information.
So this is the area that's being proposed for rezoning.
So is anyone living in that house? Remember when they separated? Is there
Yeah,
anyone
that
living in
blue
that house right
house.
now?
Yes, I
They
believe
don't
that's
have to like
occupied.
provide any butter list to talk about this?
Not for rezoning, you don't need to notify
really?
others.
I'm just scared that they're gonna be dumping dirt and then dust
Yeah, they-
flying into the neighbors' yards.
They've got a release bill for, yeah, what the heck was it called? I was looking at this PFAS stuff and it came up, there was a lot right next to it that had, petroleum micro something. Remember that Selectmen allowed that
Yeah.
a couple meetings ago?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I can't remember what it's called. Hold on, let me try to find it.
Yeah, Marcy voted for that.
Yeah, petroleum hydrocarbons. There was a,
We're found in those
there's a
wells
release
already.
number for 743865. If you go on the EEA online portal.
And that's that
So
house?
it's the abandoned lot next to it, I guess. And that was one of the things that they're allowing.
They do have a DEP permit to store or to take in hazardous soil, contaminated soil, I believe,
Yeah, that's what the selectmen.
in that pit. I'm not sure exactly where it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't look up where the actual lot was in comparison, but they said it was bordering that place on Oxford Ave. So
So I would imagine at some point that gravel operation would end and they would convert that to industrial use of some sort. So this is in preparation of that.
Another
as well.
stupid question, light industrial 87 doesn't need any frontage?
This, the lot, in a sense, this lot would be combined with all the other property there.
It would just join all the green,
This would all be in contiguous ownership.
yeah.
So by itself, this lot would not be developable as a standalone 11.5 acre lot.
Right, because you need frontage.
Right.
And where, if it's joined with the rest, what, is everything there?
You have to
and-
subdivide it, essentially build a new road and create new industrial lots.
But where's the frontage coming from?
Where's the frontage for the rest of the land? Yeah, that's a good
Well,
question.
this all has frontage down here.
Oh, okay.
So all 4, 5, 6 of those lots are owned by the same entity?
I can't say whether it's the same entity, but the principles are the same. This is, so you can see over here, the owner, 3 R's Realty Corporation. 3 R's. Lorkovich. Dudley Conservation Land Trust. 3 R's. So they own quite a bit of it, but not all of it. That's
So the frontage is on Dudley, or on Oxford Road there, but just further,
right.
okay,
Further to
understood.
the south. Okay, so we're gonna just propose it to the town meeting and they have the choice of voting it yes or no, and then,
Just the landowner's, responsibility. I'm surprised they're not here tonight to
okay,
make
and
their
then,
case. But
and then after that, it's whether or not the Attorney General will allow it or not.
yes.
So it would be the vote for us, though.
So you would need to make a recommendation on the proposal.
Recommendation.
If you
We're just
You
putting,
want, you don't
we're just
have
putting
to,
it
but you
forward
should.
for the landowners.
Excuse me?
We're just putting it forward for the landowners.
Yes, but you should evaluate whether you think it's a good idea or not.
I mean, it's gonna
Well,
gonna create more light industrial 87 land.
Yeah, but you don't live right there. Neither do I.
But I mean, like, they're already surrounding all the houses anyways. I mean,
Yeah, but
Already
that's an
moved.
11-acre wooded lot. If they cut it down and they start hauling dirt, then all those people right there are gonna like it.
but they could create a subdivision right there, cut it all down and put 10 houses on it.
No, they couldn't. They'd have to come back and rezone it to 30.
Yeah.
It's already zoned 30.
Oh, I know, but if it gets changed at this meeting, at the next meeting, they'd
Right.
have to, if they wanted to do a subdivision, they'd have to come back.
But I'm saying it's better off as light industrial than as res 30, so they can't do the subdivision.
It does, there's a whole sort of Res 30 surrounding all that
Right.
LI 87.
Well,
so-
that used to be all industrial, and they came and asked us to make it industrial. We did. We told them what the situation was, because they had non-conforming lots. And, I mean, that's flip-flopped 2 or 3 times since I've been on the planning board.
Okay, I'm
So,
not aware of that.
putting it back to Res 30 was the last time we did it, and now some of it wants to go back to Res 87, so. I'm sure I signed off on this at least twice. Yeah. Okay, any other questions on that one? Any questions from the audience?
General on all of the,
Any of them.
yeah.
Steve Woodrow, Dudley, Mass. You guys know who I am. I was on the board the first time we came around with the common driveway thing. So I just wanted to make a couple of points of clarification and just also get some stuff clarified for myself.
You should come up to the mic, Steve.
Yeah, because I don't think that one's working. Can you come up to this one? One of these?
Hello.
Oh,
There you go.
okay.
Into the
Speak
mic.
louder.
So on the common driveway issue, I know we got the majority, but we didn't get the 2/3 majority at town meeting. And I remember that one of the things that ended up happening was we didn't have the full board support for that. So I understand why some people might not like common driveways, the idea of possibly trying to sneak in more houses on one driveway. And I watched the last planning board meeting. I believe it was, Dan, you chaired it. And when the conversation came up between a couple of the board members, my subdivision application actually came up as an example. It was mentioned, so that's why I wanted to speak to it. So the big difference the big qualifier that wasn't mentioned, and the thing that kind of gets overlooked about a common driveway, is that if you have 2 houses on a common driveway, those 2 houses still have to have the required frontage on the public road. So, for instance, if it's in Res 15, you can have 2 houses in Res 15 on a common driveway, but you gotta have 200 feet total frontage. So, in my situation, on my application, it's 3 lots in the back, but that's not a common driveway. That's why I'm going through the subdivision process. It's a completely different process. It's a different test that has to be passed, so to speak. So I just wanted to make that note. And then I also wanted to note that right now, as has been mentioned, we already have a common driveway bylaw.
It's permissible.
It's already permissible. So if you do not unanimously vote to present this to town meeting for a vote, and the board isn't behind it, and that sends the wrong signal and it ends up not passing, essentially all you're doing is ensuring that the inferior common driveway bylaw stays on the books, and the 9, I believe it was 9 different things that are being added, don't get added.
Right.
And some of those things make a lot of sense. Like, I was kind of shocked when I heard it. It's like, one of those provisions says that, that the driveway has to be on the property that the houses are gonna be on. It's like, well, obviously, but apparently, the way it is right now, you could probably get an easement from an abutter and have the driveway run over part of that, a budding lot. You know, the drainage crown, make sure it's good compacted gravel to a good base and that it's crowned so that it drains properly. Apparently, right now, you can just put in a crappy gravel driveway and have big ruts and puddles in it and it doesn't drain properly. And on and on, there's several others in there, but, so I just wanted to say that, and for the record, I mean, you guys have seen my project, I'm gonna present that subdivision the way that I presented it at the preliminary. And everything else I'm doing over there are straight A&Rs. I don't need common driveways. So I just want to make it clear, I don't have a dog in this fight, so to speak, but I just think it would be a shame that we don't give our current existing common driveway bylaw the teeth that it needs to give the highway superintendent basically the authority to make sure that people don't put in a driveway that's poorly constructed that ends up having gravel wash out onto the road and cause other problems. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
None.
All right, so it's, can't see with the glare,
49.
7:49, we'll close the public hearing. And we can go ahead and vote on the number 6 proposed articles. All right, so number 1, to amend the Dudley zoning bylaw sections 5.04.02 subsections A and B, projects requiring minor and major site plan review, subsection 3, in each by deleting the words additional and adding the new phrase after the words normal maintenance to illustrate the types of activities that are considered normal maintenance. What's the board's pleasure on?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we recommend approval or recommend moving to the town meeting for a vote? How would I word that, Bill? As read.
Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Number 2, this is the floodplain district bylaw, replacing the old one with the new one to keep the National Flood Insurance Program in line. Somebody like to make a motion for number 2?
I'll make a motion to accept it as read,
Okay, we have a motion,
town meeting.
do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor on number 2?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Number 3, amend the Dudley zoning bylaw by adding new section 3.16. This is the battery storage system bylaw.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we, or a recommendation that we, I make a motion that we recommend this to the town for a vote at the town meeting as read.
So we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous on that one. Number 4, parking standards. This was the electrical vehicle charging stations, adding one for 20 or more spaces. Somebody like to make a motion? Hearing no motion, fails. We don't recommend it.
So I guess the question is, if you're not recommending, should we just pull it off then?
Can we still do that?
Because that is, yes, the warrant hasn't been printed yet, so.
Okay, if it hasn't been printed, let's pull it off.
Pull it off, okay.
Number 5, the driveway curb cut, common driveway standards. Would somebody like to make a motion for that zoning bylaw?
I'll move that we recommend that for the town meeting.
So we have
As
a,
written.
okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous on number 5. Number 6, the landowner petition for the 11.45 acres of land on Oxford Avenue, changing the zoning from Res 30 to Light Industrial 87. Somebody like to make a motion for the number 6?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve this and pass it on to the town meeting.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Can the chairman second it for a vote? Okay, chairman seconded it for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, we have two.
Two, so it's a non-recommendation. It'll go forward regardless because it's a
Yeah.
landowner petition.
Yeah, if he was here, I would, he explained it, but he didn't, no one showed up to explain it, so.
Okay.
I'm more scared that the neighbor's gonna come after.
All right. And the landowner would have the opportunity to stand up at town meeting and speak for it on his own, right?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so that takes care of those petitions. Well, I shouldn't say petitions, warrant articles. The last one was a petition. Let's get back to our agenda for this evening. Approval of minutes from the March 22nd meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes for March 22nd?
I can second?
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
So it's gonna be a vote of 3. I'm gonna abstain because I was not at the March 22nd meeting.
So that's a good point, Mr. Chairman. This is a public meeting, the planning board was called to order by Guy Horn, chairman. You weren't there that time, were you?
It says.
So, excuse me, this is the February one, right? What are we voting for here?
March 22nd.
March 22nd, okay, I'm looking at the February 22nd one.
Okay, March 22nd says Guy Horn was absent.
Yep, okay. I was the wrong month.
Okay, no worries.
My bad.
All right, so we have that one voted on.
Yep.
And that's the only one we have to vote on tonight, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I have 2 copies of it here. If you guys would like to start signing them off. Move them back. We have no A&R plans this evening.
Correct?
Number 4, Graves completion estimate for Pierpont Estates and status of financial securities and possible vote to release funds from escrow. Did we get an update from Graves?
Yes, in
I think it's under tab D.
tab D.
Yep.
So what's going on here is that Tony Sicaro, the developer of Pierpont Estates, wanted to close out his security arrangements with Bank Hometown and Hill Financial
Okay.
and provide all of the security as cash in an escrow account with the town.
Okay.
So what you see before you is the various phases and the securities that we have in place. And so the security, in the column called security remaining, you'll see a row called total. So once we get all of these instruments in cash, the town would have $187,028.25 in cash. The Graves estimate, which I'll get to in a minute, is $181,507.20 to complete the work. So we have more in cash than it will take to complete the subdivision. But I also have to account for the invoice that they submitted for $1,882.76.
Mm-hmm.
So doing the math, we then have an excess security of $3,638.29. So my thought is that we would combine all of these different phases amounts into one account. So it would make it much simpler to, do reductions. We don't have to account for it phase by phase. We can have an overall number that we're working with. So on the next page is the beginning of the letter from Graves Engineering, and this is their standard format. They look at the plan, determine the work that's been done, what hasn't been done, calculate the cost to complete the work, and then they do that by all of the phases, and then they come up with a total amount of work for the entire subdivision to be completed. And then it was in the sheet that we started with. So all of these phases amounts to $181,507.20. So I guess what I'm suggesting is that since we will have more cash than we need, that we could release the excess to the developer.
Okay, so my question is that all these phases that Graves already gone through and estimated, he has his 10 or 20% contingency included in every one of those?
Yes.
Okay, so that $181,507 number is including all the contingencies.
Yes.
So that alone should
Well,
be.
that's the amount the town will have.
Yeah, but that's in excess, that's actually calculated in excess of what should be needed.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I wouldn't have a problem with releasing the $3,638.29 that's remaining as excess security. What's the,
Now, all the lots and everything are released over there, right?
I believe so.
So all the lots have been released, which raises the question of the covenant. It's coming up for renewal.
Yeah,
Do you want to renew it, or should we just let it lapse since you have enough security now to cover the cost of completing the project?
why wouldn't we wanna just renew it for another year if that's what he needs? I mean, I took it right up there the other
That was
day.
kind of
and
my thinking too. It doesn't have any financial repercussions.
Right, I took it right up there the other day, and I think there was only maybe 2 or 3 lots left to be built on. I think he's got almost everything done.
And how much of the roadway still has to, needs a top course?
I think just the
Well,
last phase.
Phase 2E doesn't have a top course on it yet, I don't think.
And what's the length of the road for Phase 2E, do we know? The reason I'm asking is because we have, and this is all before my time, so maybe I should keep my mouth shut. But for Phase 2D roadway, we've got $3,600. For Phase 2C, we've got $5,500. I'm not a paving expert, but for $10,100, I don't think we can get paving equipment out there, let alone pave anything.
He's saying it's, if you look at the Phase 2E construction of work along Road A, Noble Street between Station 14 plus 00 and Station 23 plus 25. So I take that as being typically between stations is 100 feet, if I remember right.
Yeah, I'm assuming that these have already been approved. These is all from March, correct? I'm assuming the board has seen these and approved these in some way, shape, or form? I wasn't on the board in March. I would
Well,
just question.
The board
what
hasn't
you
seen
can-
these for some time. It probably goes back to the fall, maybe or late summer, was the last time you had examined this kind of information.
I just, looking at this, for the last page here, the project Pierpont Estates Phase 2D, date March 24th, 2023.
Right, so he had gone out at Tony's request,
Yep.
so this is current information.
Right. So if this is current information, that means the first thing we have to do would be approve these estimates.
Yes, if you agree with these estimates, then, you know, the question is, do you want to release the excess or not? If you're not comfortable with these estimates, you don't have to release the excess.
My feeling is, even though I drive around back there every now and then, it's been quite some time since I've been back there, I don't think I've ever seen a complete set of finished plans for this. This is all approved way before my time. I know there's been waivers and other items that have been passed, granted, and there's been some piecemeal stuff done. Without, me personally, without going out and actually seeing or having some kind of a plan that shows where the rest of the work is, I am hesitant to approve what I'm looking at as for the estimates. Nothing against Graves, it's just for my own.
Sure.
I have to be somewhat responsible to the citizens of Dudley to actually have looked through this and without having some kind of a tie-in to what these numbers are actually showing as areas or.
A year or two ago, he had tried to get the completed portions of the subdivision accepted by town meeting. And he had as-built plans prepared, and we did a site inspection. There was a number of punch list items that needed to be completed. And he never followed through. He didn't complete those, few items for phases 1, 2A, 2B, 2C, and 2D. And then he came in with the final phase, 2E, which was a major effort on his part. So the portions of the subdivision that do have the final paving are in good shape, but still need some work. Catch basins need to be repaired, some of the sidewalk issues, some streetlights that need to go in. So there's still work in those other phases that need to be completed. So my assumption is that he's going to complete 2E and all the other phases and come in for acceptance within, certainly not this year, but perhaps next year.
Mhm.
So I think he's getting close to
I mean-
wrapping this up.
With the amount of money that's in the account, I can't imagine that getting back $3,600 one way or the other is really gonna make it or break it. So.
Got a lot
if
of money
Mis-
tied up.
Right, if Mr. Edmiston's not comfortable with it, let's just leave it as it is.
Mhm.
I'm just, I mean, I see the 2E and there's more amounts in there, it's just that not being familiar with what work has to be done
Mhm.
and where, I just would like to see some kind of tie-in.
Okay.
If he were to walk away from this subdivision, would that be the total? Like, would that Graves total be 182? That's what the people would be paying a betterment for?
Was that
If this road, if he walked away and these people had to go through the betterment process, would that be
No.
the total?
No, we have the cash, so the town would be able to go in and complete the work with the money we have available.
Yeah,
Well, what
that would
happens if
cover
the
that?
money's more than?
Well, that's why we have Graves do the estimate, so he accounts for public sector wages.
He's got a 20% contingency on everything.
Okay.
So if we go to the, what is it, the Phase 2E,
Yep.
this is one that has the largest amount in it.
Yes.
Top course 2-inch compacted thickness, he's got 280 tons at $120 a ton for $33,600. The way, my experience, how I estimate usually asphalt work is by square yard, and I could be off on this, but just figuring an approximate of $65 a square yard, you come up with an amount of square footage, or then you can multiply by 9 to get square footage, divide by 24, because the roadway is 24 feet long, and I'm coming up with 194 linear feet of roadway. That's basically 2 lots, right? What do we have for frontage
Yeah,
out there?
this is saying that there's 925 linear feet of roadway to be paved at 24 feet wide.
Yeah, and you know they make an asphalt calculator if you Google it. A concrete calculator. Tells you.
Right, but I'm not in site work, but how many feet has to be done still?
This says, the way I read the estimate, from 14 plus 00 station, and stations 23 plus 25, 23 minus 14 is 900. And it's, the 20, plus 25 is 25 more feet, so 925 feet long by 24 feet wide will give you the square footage that needs to
Okay.
be paved.
Right, then you divide that by 9 for square yards, and you multiply that by, so 65, and you're at $160,000.
Yeah, and I have up on screen sort of the phases, the locations of the phases, because it's
We
very
just move this to
confusing.
next meeting, so I can go take a look at it.
Yep.
I haven't been up there in a while either.
Or we
got more
can,
experience than I do
or
paving?
we can just let it go, I mean,
Yeah, I own my own paving
did he
equipment.
ask for the $3,600 to be refunded?
Not formally,
So then we just let it go.
okay.
I mean, we don't, if you wanna go up there and take a look at it, that's fine, but I'm just saying, we don't have to actually act on this, it's just, there's an additional $3,600 extra in the account, it's not gonna hurt anybody.
Well, he's closing the bond and giving us cash anyways, right?
Right, I mean, we're in a much better state
Yeah.
than we were before.
And I think, compared to previous subdivisions.
Yeah, we got rid of letters of credit, and now we have,
Bag,
we have
right.
cash in the bank, so I mean, like,
But I guess the only place I'm going is, that let's assume that how you read the
that's what I'm
the
reading.
stations at 900 and some odd feet, and you have some experience with paving there. I don't know if 33,000 is sufficient to pave 900 linear feet of roadway. So then my issue then isn't if he's gonna give us cash, if we're going through a surety, or if he's gonna combine them all into one. My issue would be, is this estimate correct? That's where my issue comes in.
Well, that's, why we have Graves Engineering do the calculations, so that's their job to figure that out.
Did he put a stamp on these estimates?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything stamped
That's a
here.
good idea, You gotta call Morello
Yeah,
and
I
see how
mean,
much asphalt goes
We
for a yard. or
we
for a
could just,
ton.
we could just ask Jeff to come in and explain it too.
Cause I'm like, Dan,
Right, how much asphalt goes for is the material price, then you have the
Yeah.
equipment, the manpower, you
Yeah.
have to get out there.
the laborers.
There's a lot of
everything
other
else.
things involved with it, so if the asphalt if the asphalt price itself was $120 a yard or whatever, that's great, but there's a lot of material, there's
Yeah.
other things that go into that. Like, I can't build a deck for the price of the wood,
Yeah.
there's other things involved.
So basically, no action then.
That's what I'm thinking,
Okay.
unless you guys wanna have Graves come in and explain it to us?
I don't think that's-
Well, either
What was
way,
the
he
action
just-
you were looking for?
He's getting rid of the bank and he's giving us cash, so
Right,
it doesn't
I'm
really
saying,
make a difference.
I'm saying just let it go.
Yeah, okay,
Unless Tony comes in and says, I want my $3,600.
okay.
My comments have nothing to do with the cash, the bank, whatever else. My comments have to do with the estimate.
How he's
If we
estimating.
if we don't act on this or take some action, this estimate from Graves is accepted. And it could be 100% correct. It could be. I don't know that. I don't know what work is being priced. You're guessing, I'm guessing. I think we should take some action in order to approve, or to have this, that we have some kind of surety that's correct.
Okay, so
If
you-
that means that
so
Graves
then-
comes in here and talks to us, if that means we go out there and take a look at it, if that means that we have to have some kind of plan.
I think the best way to
that
handle
goes
it would
into
be to
these?
have Graves come here and explain it to us, just so that we're all on the same page.
Well, like Dave said, if he walks away and we're left with 180 and they wanna use a betterman's lot, and then Graves comes back with a $400,000 to finish
That's what
this.
I'd be worried about.
Well,
That's
we
what
have-
I'm worried about.
We have the Graves estimate, I mean, that's
We
not
also
gonna
have to,
change.
if anybody, if that developer walks away, we no longer can do this work in private hands.
Yeah, I
The
know.
town has to do it prevailing wage,
Yes,
and that's also different.
well, that's, he accounts for that, if you read his memo, he
Again,
does state that.
I can write a lot of things down, doesn't necessarily mean it's correct. People make mistakes. All I'm asking for is some kind of,
Justification.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Let's have Graves come in at his convenience. Doesn't have to be the next meeting, if it's the meeting after, whatever.
I mean, as you say, if Tony wants to get the money back, then I think it becomes an issue. If he doesn't, then,
Right. But I think just to get some clarification for Mr. Edmiston, let's have Jeff come in and explain how he's estimating this.
Do we have to vote on that, all these,
no, there's no
There's no
real
vote.
to put
action
it
that's
into like
required.
one thing?
If you're not gonna release the funds, there's no action that's required.
No, so, okay.
Did Graves make this estimate for the town or for the developer?
Tony wanted to cancel his bank instruments and have all the money.
For the,
So in order,
if he made it for the developer, then we don't have to accept it.
I asked him to do it, I asked
If he
Jeff
made it for
Walsh.
the town, then we have to take some action. We have to get some kind of verification of the number.
Right.
Okay.
He made it for the town, he's our engineer. He's not Tony's
But
engineer.
he works for us, correct?
Right.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
If-
I'll ask him to,
Right, so we're the town, if we have a question, we ask the engineer.
sure.
I'm sure Graves Engineering has some private clients, correct?
Oh, sure. Okay. So that was number 4. We're over at the standard business, discussion, status reports on finishing construction of acceptance of uncompleted, unaccepted subdivision streets, including Pierpont Estates, Rocky Hill Estates, Country View Estates, Tobin Farm Estates, and Lyon Estates. Do we have any information on that?
No.
Okay. Inspections and actions associated with site plans, so we have Legacy Landing Country Club Acres, we have SEP Solar, Oxford Avenue, we have JD&D 24 Oxford Avenue, site inspection reports, and we have Stevens Mill. Do we have any information on those? No, okay. Review decision of Nichols College Townhome Project and possible vote to approve. Do we have some information come in that they
I
are now owners?
checked to see if that property's transferred, it is not yet, so,
Okay, so we're still in a holding pattern.
that's right.
Okay. Next one is Planner's Plate.
Couple of items, on the Complete Streets program, since you're the Complete Streets Committee, there's a new funding cycle open now. But unfortunately, there's a new policy in place which says that one community cannot get more than $500,000 within a 4 fiscal year period. So we got $400,000
Last time.
in October of '21. So we have to wait another year and a half, 2 fiscal years, in order to be eligible to apply for the 500,000. So we got 400 and the new cap is 500,000. So we could theoretically go after 100,000, but it doesn't make any sense.
No, 100,000 is gonna get you about 20 feet of sidewalk.
So
Or it could get us 1,800 feet of roadway in
Beer pong
Beer pong,
stays.
yep, one of the two.
It's okay.
We don't lose that 100,000.
No, but I mean, we weren't eligible for it before this year, right? That's a change that where it went from 400 to 500,000, that was this year. But because we qualified for the 400,000
Right.
2 years ago, we now have to wait another 2 years.
So, I don't know what your thinking was, but, within Town Hall, we're thinking of Airport Road continuing, we have the Shared Streets and Spaces grant for
Mhm.
that Canyard Road, Airport Road, Dudley Hill Road, and that's to do the complete streets project from that point down as far as we can get towards the shopping plaza.
Yep.
Would be sort of our thinking in terms of the next application. The second item is, the retail marijuana store proposed for 40 Hall Road, will be coming in soon. That is I think it's a used car lot now adjacent to Universal Tag, that site. So that will require a special permit of the planning board. Just a heads up, it should be coming in soon, so I'll be routing that around to departments, and we'll be scheduling for that probably late May, early June, something of that timeframe. And the last item is, the First Avenue water main and, project is now out to bid. There was a site walkthrough today on First Avenue. I believe 15 or 16 entities took out plans, so there seems to be some interest in that. The bid opening will be later, I think will be in early May. So just to let you know, that project is still moving forward. That's a CDBG project. So that's, looks like we'll have some good competition for that project.
What's that acronym again? I'm sorry.
Community Development Block Grant.
Okay. And this is for, what you
First
said,
Avenue from Brandon to George, essentially.
and you said this was for water mains?
Yes, water main and some drainage work
Okay.
in that area.
So
Then there'll be, the next application would be to repave the street
street.
full width.
So replacing current water mains, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
don't see they have a whole pile on Schofield Ave.
And that was the end of your planners plate, Bill?
Yes.
Okay. Any comments from the planning board?
Just real quick, Mr. Chairman. Last month, we talked about erosion control and some of the different construction sites around town where they weren't really paying attention to what they should be doing. We asked the building inspector to talk to the people on Mason Road, I believe it was, about their erosion control that was set up. They didn't really have much set up. At that time, it had rained a couple times, and then we had erosion soils coming down the hill towards the street. Couple days, 3 days after the meeting, I happened to drive past there again, and all the silt fences were up, everything was taken care of. I drove by them the way again tonight, and it looked like they're doing a good job with the upkeep. I just want to say it's a pleasure to work with groups like that who, anybody can have an oversight, miss something, but once it's pointed out to them, they actually take active steps to correct the matter. It's good working with people like that.
Good.
I just wanted to say, I was surprised last Sunday. I took a ride over to Legacy Landing, the new subdivision there, 55 and older, and there's actually people living there now. I would say about half the houses that are completed are now occupied, and I was very surprised to see that there was a missing manhole cover, approximately one house away from an occupied house. And I mean, it was right on the street. Somebody could have drove their car into it. There was a piece of planking sticking out of the ground where the manhole cover was missing, but I mean, that's not gonna really stop a car from falling in there, or worse yet, a kid. Have we had anything from, how long has it been since Graves has been out there to take a look?
I believe we had a report at the last meeting,
Yeah, not too long ago.
so it was maybe 3 weeks ago.
So he was out there and he didn't see this?
I don't think it
That
showed
was
up.
the one
in the
that wasn't
report.
much of a report, and Richard was complaining about it not being much of a report.
Okay, all right, like I said, I was very surprised to see this. I mean, like, anybody could just drive into it's basically like a storm drain, you know, the 2-foot square hole.
Mhm.
it's like the rim and the grate is gone, the asphalt's broken up around it, and it's, the concrete,
it like
the
that.
concrete piece underneath is still there, and it's full of water. So, I mean, if a little kid fell in there, they could drown. Somebody's dog falls in there, they could drown. I mean, it's, I was really surprised to see that, like, no barricade around, I mean, at least put up some sawhorses
Well,
or.
just put the cover back on when you're done working
I don't think
on
you
it.
can, cause I think the steel, frame that goes around where the cover sits is gone.
I'll ask the highway
Scrapper.
superintendent to go out and look at that issue and contact the developer to
Yeah, cause
take care of that.
I mean, that's a really bad situation, I think, cause I'm sure that sump is at least 6 or 8 feet deep if somebody fell in there.
Do you know about where this was?
It's the last, if you're driving in from the airport roadside, it's the last house on the left.
Could've just reported to the police department, they would've sent someone down there to look at it. They're our public safety officers.
Yeah.
I mean, this was last Sunday. I mean, maybe it's fixed, I hope it is, but as of last Sunday, it wasn't, and I was really surprised to see that, especially with people living in the neighborhood. I mean, that's common sense,
For sure.
yeah. Okay, that was any other planning board comments?
Nope.
Okay, any other comments from the audience?
I was just gonna mention that, the Complete Streets project, when we did that project on Mason Road, that was actually number 2 on the list. Number 1 on the list was the Ramshorn Road intersection. And the only reason we switched it to the only reason we switched it up was because they were already doing the sewer mains on, Mason Road. So the engineer was already doing the work, so we could get the engineer to do the work for the sidewalks, like pro bono or something. That's the only reason. So, I mean, you guys do what you want, you're the board now. If you wanna change the order, that's fine, but I just thought I'd remind you that that's, when we hashed it all out, priority number 1 was that horrible intersection right near Shepherd Hill and going down to Shepherd Hill.
Right, but I think the issue that Bill just was stating was the fact that we've got this other project, I forgot the name of it, but that's gonna work on the Tan-Yard Road intersection in front of the golf course. And then that's not really gonna make concrete changes, it's more like signage and striping and stuff like that, if I remember right, correct?
The thought would be to dead end Tanyard Road, so it doesn't go into that intersection any longer.
Okay,
And rechannel the approaches to that intersection so it's regular, and to fix the entrance into the golf course, which is very wide, to channelize that, so there's a
so they have it,
clear entry
an in
exit.
and an out kind of
So
thing,
be concentrated in that intersection area,
right, and people aren't just driving all different directions.
yes.
So the thought was we use that project to help correct that situation and then work on,
But I agree that Ramshorn Road
yeah,
intersection is also a high priority.
yeah, and I mean, the only thing I think that's gonna be more expensive over at Ramsdown Road is we're dealing with a historical cemetery and all that goes along with it, so, I mean, $500,000 may not be enough to take care of that. Okay, do we have any voucher payments?
No.
Next meeting date is May 10th at 7 PM in this room. And- Okay, somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is that unanimous?